Huh?
Oh, that's nice. All right. Today, this is the third video that you saw today. I didn't know when you saw the other two. It was like a play it by ear day. When I left the house this morning, I thought I'm not sure who I'll run into. Sure enough, I ran into Crow. He's back. We're at the house. It's about 5:30. We didn't spend the whole day together, but after the last little video, the one at HEB, we went back to Mike's house and had a nice kind of fellowship for a couple of hours. And the new guy you saw in the video, he's new. I just met him today. His name is Jace. I think he's from Florida. He's been around for, I think he said 8 months here. So, it was good for him to kind of see a little bit of how we were, talking. And some of the guys, some new guys, and even some of the older guys, people get paranoid. They wonder about things, and it's good for people to just sit around and kind of, even if they just hear me talking to Crow or talking to somebody, quoting a verse, it's sort of, they're not in an official Bible study, but then they get to hear some things. The last video, the one that goes up before this one, because I'm going to put all three of them up as one day, all that we did today. But it was interesting because Mike, he bought that magazine from HEB. I was going to buy it, and because it had on the cover Jim Morrison, Janis Joplin. I like all the old rock music and all, and it told the story how they all died young. I think Mike had said it, the article said they all died at 27. So as we were discussing, and I just started quoting some verses about it's appointed unto men once to die, but after that the judgment. I see on my camera's not doing too good. But a couple of those scriptures I quoted, they were talking about that very thing, that we all die. And so I found it interesting that Mike picked up on it. He thought it was like confirmation that the actual magazine, that was the theme of that magazine, that these guys all died young. And so that's how it works, things kind of fit together. Crow came by just a little while ago, and so I told him, well, we'll do one last, it'll be like we did last time, it'll be like the whole day, different ones, different discussions. Crow, any insights from today?
It was actually a very intense day. There was a lot of pressures from all sides, but not in a very hard way. And I got to, which I thought was incredible, was like I said, Tammy, she had started smoothing off. It's the happiest I've ever seen her, ever. I was amazed how beautiful she looked, just smiling and being happy. And then to find her crying really hurt me, but...
Crow was, I'll fill you in real quick. Crow, we all met at Mike's house after we left the little HEB video, which I'll title it HEB video. And then Crow was walking to Mike's. But he was late, like an hour and a half or something. And somebody go, oh, where's he at? I said, I don't know, maybe he ran into... But he saw a friend of his, a girl by the name of Tammy. I might know her, but I know a few Tammys. But she needed encouragement. And Crow was happy when he finally showed up. He said, he got to talk to her. And so that's kind of what he's talking about.
Absolutely. When I left, she couldn't stop smiling. And it was dramatic. She was really hurt, tore up, and it was really, I've never actually seen her that sad either. And to see her go from one extreme to the other and back again, and when I left, it made me a lot closer to her, and she realized, and vice versa, and it was very powerful. It really was. I'm totally glad it happened, especially considering that the whole reason I bailed out of the car was because of an ex that I thought may have been in trouble, and
yes,
in reality, yes. I almost stepped in a big pile there, but I avoided it. And so while everything was, the trail was a little tricky, I managed to get through it. And I watched how these people throughout the day they're convinced of this or that happened, and it's what made them sad or made them happy. And
one of the guys, Chase, the new guy, he left a little pocket knife in the car with the little necklace, a jewelry thing. And it wasn't much because the guys had a lot of bags in the car. So I was leaving them all at Mike's when I took off. So then the guy thought maybe somebody robbed it. And I never answered my phone. Sure enough, when my phone rang, because I don't recognize the numbers, today I answered it, like after I left the guys. And then Crow asked, he said, John, this Chase is worried. He thinks somebody stole the little pocket knife you had. No. Can you check the car? Sure, I'll check the car. And it was in the car. So, but I kind of could tell I wasn't there when the guy kind of maybe panicked a little bit, like what happened to it. But I could see he was feeling that way, even about some other things. And Crow was just telling me that he told the new friend we met today, he said, just calm down, if John's not going to take it, maybe somebody else would lie and say it's not in the car, but we'll call John. Sure enough, I answered the phone, I checked in the car. It's a nice little pocket knife, it's right there. It said, yeah, it's here, you guys come over and get it. And so, but sometimes people, look, I overreact. Oh, I forgot, I wanted to show you, this is my overreacting. I dropped a little hard. But I wanted to show everybody, I've been showing them I was building this, and that's the finished product there. Okay? I like it. At first, when I built that, I'm showing them I built that little, sort of like a privacy spot for when I pray. And I've been showing them it at the last few videos. So that's overreaction, because what happened was my neighbor cut down some high weeds, and he accidentally chopped. I had a little privacy fence, like a little Venetian bamboo fence. But because the grass grew in it, I was purposefully letting the grass grow in it. So when I'm out there praying, I'm in the sun. When I'm out there praying, people don't see me. Well, he must have had some kid do the yard, and he accidentally chopped the little foot off. And I thought, so I said, I'm going to just build another fence. I went to Lowe's the other morning. But so I built that. But I kind of was kidding. I said, I overreact because I could have done something else, but it looks nice. I like the way it came. I'm in the sun. So I guess today's theme would have been, we talked about the brevity of life, looking at that little Janis Joplin magazine, and I read it actually when we got back to Mike's house, and I looked at some of the articles in it. And the first video that we made, you got to see Clara Kay. Oh, I should show you that picture I got in the house of Buck. Let me do it. Let me show it to you. Walk with me. If you want, here's enough. On the other video I mentioned Buck, Buck was a long-time alcoholic, many years. I loved old Buck. And I told you on the last video, see how unprepared this is? Show you my room. I told you on the last video that Buck, one day when I was walking up to, I'm videotaping Lou, but it's me. One day when I was walking up to Timmons, I just took a picture of Buck. He was crashed out, sleeping like he was drunk, and he was over by Timmons Ministries. And when I took that picture of Buck, here it is. When I took the picture of Buck, he died a few weeks later, and we used that. That was the only picture we had of Buck, and it was used for his funeral. That's it there. And this paper that it's on is the official service celebrating the life of Carl Buck Finley. And that was the picture. I just texted it, sent it to the pastor of the church. So I thought that'd be nice. You get to see that. I got a lot of verses up in this room.
Wow.
And I'm putting up. These are the New York. When I first started going back to New York City, New Jersey, this brother I met, this is one of the first guys I met. Where's he at? I was walking Central Park. Here he is. I was walking Central Park. It's about 3 years ago. And I'm walking through Central Park. I still remember. And I ran into him. I remember his name. His name was Jehovah. There's a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses that live in that area of the country. The Watchtower Society, that's the Central Location Jehovah Witnesses, so maybe his parents named him Jehovah. And he was, on the street, Central Park, and I'm walking around like I do here, and I remember asking him, I said, "Hey, brother," I said, "I'm just here, I'm new." He thought I was on the street, like, homeless. And he started telling me. I offered to give him a few dollars. I don't think he took it. But he said, "Oh, okay, here's a church. You can go to this church, and they'll tell you the shelter." And he was like helping me, like I was a new homeless guy in New York. But he's one of the first guys I met. This is Nick. Nick's a friend of mine. Those of you who watch the videos, this is a few years ago. Nick's got no legs from the knee down. He lost his legs in a car wreck. But Nick is excellent on the guitar. So I got pictures of New York City and all the places we've been going to. And I told Crow, I said, "Oh, I want to show that picture of what's his name." And so we'll walk back in the back, and that's it. So that was it for today. You got another little. I'm trying to think if there's any other particular. Okay, Mike the artist. Mike the artist, who you saw in the other video, he painted that. That's from Mike. You see his name on the bottom. Schweikert, 2012. You know what he does with those paintings? He normally paints over them. He doesn't sell them. And I said, "I'm going to buy that from you, Mike, like for maybe $30 or something." That's kind of how to him, it's just a fun thing. So you saw another day, and I'm not sure what's up tomorrow. I was going to go to Alice, and then I found out I'm going to go to Alice Friday. So that's it. Final words. I can't think of any particular. You might. I'm glad that Mike met Crow, and that Mike met that new guy, Jace. I told him I want you to meet Mike, because Mike is renting a nice little apartment. You saw the video where I got the tattoo. That's Mike's little house he rents when he gave me the tattoo. And he lets guys every now and then crash out, spend the night. Sometimes he'll say $10 a night or $5, but sometimes he does not. And so some of the guys, I thought, this would be good. That would be a good friend for the guys that every now and then, if they need a place to crash out, they get to know Mike. They can work out a deal with Mike. So that was it. Nothing else particular, Crow?
I particularly liked the idea how he was panicking in a given situation, and I didn't get excited and proceeded to find out what happened. But Mike kind of rose to the occasion, and he was telling that dude that this is for the brothers, and that everything here is for them, the brothers in this CCOM, and that that's the only people allowed in this house, and since we were part of that, and he went on, and the kid completely forgot about what was missing, what was going on, and everything, and was listening to like, really,
Okay.
And he is has a lot more people skills than I thought he originally had.
Okay.
He's no dummy, in other words, at all. And I have a lot more respect for him. And it was something. It was a very hot day, a very unexpected event. After unexpected event happened, and I hope this continues. I was telling the girl today that faith, just where you put your faith is important, and I love that. I showed her how, as I believe thoroughly that my philosophy is that it was meant to be. Then there's nothing you can do to stop it, and if it's not meant to be, there's nothing you can do to make it happen. And if you're that unsure about something, simply ask him to show you, and he will show you. I have faith in that too. And these guys heard all day long, sandwich, and of course John's in the other room, and next thing you know, his brother's throwing a sandwich, and it was a lot of fun. It was very.
I just read before you came over. But I was reading a couple of chapters for the night, and I'm not going to teach it now. But chapter 4 of Hebrews, which I mention on some videos as I'm reading through, but it says this. It says, because they did not have faith, they could not enter into the promise, though the works were finished before the world was made. I could teach you exactly what it's saying in that chapter, but what it is saying is God had things settled, purposes, His will, His destiny. These things were made for you, for me, before we were even born, before the world was made. But He's saying, but beware, because the others, He's talking about the example of the old people of God in the Old Testament, He said, the promise was made to them as well. The gospel or the good news was given to them as well, but they could not enter in because they didn't believe. And He says, so it's not up to you to do it all. God's done it all for you. The purpose He's got for your life, the worlds, quote, were made before the foundation. What He purposed for you has already been done. But our job is to believe, to have the faith. Our job is to say, I know God's got a purpose for me. And it's not up to me to make that thing happen. It's just up to me to believe. It says in Hebrews chapter 4, it says, those that believe enter into His rest. Okay? Technically, theologically, what that's talking about is He's making an argument that you got to believe in Jesus now, and you got to leave the old works of the law. That was the first century Jewish community. They had to leave the law. I taught that in my commentary on Hebrews. But to just make it practical, we have to simply, God's got a lot of things He wants to do in our lives, and it's just up to us to trust and to believe. And some of those people, they were not entering in, or they were not fulfilling what God had for them. They just didn't really believe. They just really didn't believe. And it's important that we understand, it says when God, today, some of the theme on some of the other verses was the creation. I quoted some things out of Genesis. It says, in 6 days God made everything. It said on the seventh day He rested. And there's another verse, I think it's in Exodus, it said the Lord rested the seventh day from all of His works and was refreshed. And then when we read the book of Hebrews, it talks about that seventh day. See, He made everything in 6 days, and the seventh day was called the Sabbath. We followed it in the Old Testament. It was a sign. We're not under it today. We're all in the Sabbath when we believe, which is a type of grace, a type of a new covenant. That's what the book of Hebrews is going to teach. So when you come to Christ, you're no longer trying to make yourself pleasing to God. He died for your sins. He was buried. He rose again. That's what grace means. And what about all the struggles with addiction and all the struggle? It's a gift to not have to be controlled by those other things. In the Gospel of John, which I'm teaching as well, Jesus said, look, whoever commits sin is a servant of sin. You don't have to be the slave. You don't have to let all those things drive you anymore. But you don't have to, it's not up to you to make yourself free. Jesus said, who the Son sets free is free indeed. That's also in the Gospel of John. So entering into rest is simply trusting, simply believing. And chapter 4, which I just read a few minutes ago, that's what he was saying. He says, don't be like those that they couldn't enter into that rest. They couldn't believe the promise. We just want to have faith and believe what God has ordained for our lives. As we trust Him, He brings that to pass. Okay? That's the goal. I'm going to end it on that. And I hope you all enjoyed today's little videos. God bless.